In 2020, citizens of Schuylkill County found bizarre notes hidden in their groceries and shared them online with Reddit. The note's message alluded to government corruption, social issues, and other conspiracy theories. No one has been able to track down where the notes came from or what they really mean. And since then, it has only expanded exponentially. So today, we discuss the Schuylkill Notes mystery. This is Red Web. Welcome back, Task Force, to another episode of Red Web, the podcast all about internet mysteries, true crime, and a little bit of supernatural phenomenon on top. I am your resident mystery enthusiast, Trevor Collins, and joining me, hearing this mystery for the very first time, Alfredo Diaz.
Where the hell is Skookul?
Schuylkill.
Skookul?
It's a county in Pennsylvania.
Ah, okay.
I'm going to spell it out because it definitely threw me for a loop.
What?
Yeah, it's Schuylkill.
Skookul.
Schuylkill.
All right.
Or Schuylkill is the other pronunciation we saw online.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what you guys saw.
That's what we saw. So Schuylkill Notes, have you ever heard of this? It's a very recent one. It's ongoing.
Haven't heard of it. I love that it's recent because that just kind of puts it a lot further into, it's right up to today, right?
Oh yeah, it's still happening. As of like when Jillian was doing research on this, developments were happening the day prior.
Oh my goodness.
And normally, we don't like to dive in unless a thing is kind of resolved, and so we have things to talk about. And we'll get to it, but kind of playing some of my hand here, it hasn't really continued to develop as much as it's just staying
still
relevant. So it hasn't really progressed, and so it's worth talking about here because a little behind the scenes, Task Force, we started looking at this topic back in 2021. We had initially done some research on this topic. It was a very light one. There wasn't a whole lot to talk about, so we parked it. And going into last year, 2023, and then coming into this year, there's been so many more notes showing up. We then decided we wanted to talk about what the original notes were, how the story has expanded, but also how overall really no progress has been made.
Yeah.
So it is ongoing, and there are ongoing Reddit conversations. So as always, with these active online, as it were, tangible mysteries, Task Force, you can go and get involved. But, I'm going to always issue the air of caution.
Yep.
These are real people and real events happening, and we don't know exactly what we're dealing with. So it's something that you can kind of peek into and see the developing conversations.
It's a dangerous place. It can be.
Or just weird. But the reason why we really wanted to talk about it is the FBI's gotten involved. Congressmen have started getting involved in responding to this topic. And we'll get into all of that.
Like catching the attention of the government. Is it in sealed products?
Yes, it is.
What?
Yeah.
I was like, all right, you got a bag of fruit, whatever. There's all kinds of little cutout holes and everything. You can slip stuff in there, but hold on, it's in sealed products. Now I'd be very interested to see if it's in sealed products that come from different, companies.
Yeah.
Obviously you have what is it, Kellogg's or whatever that owns how many different brands, and it's like one of those things. And when it comes to food, it's there's really a handful of companies, and they just own everything.
One corporate daddy owns basically 95% of them in some amount, right?
Yeah, it's it's really wild to just go, wait, hold on. This brand is owned by this brand, is owned by that brand, and it's all Yeah, I like how you're thinking, because that's what we were thinking about. We'll get into all of it. Yeah, we'll get into it. But it's in sealed products. That is very intriguing.
It's very interesting. So I do want to say there's a lot of conspiratorial elements. Now, I do say that in this show we have talked about conspiracies in the past, but this is quintessential conspiracy. This starts to go into what I would consider the very deep end of certain ideologies, of certain beliefs, of certain conspiracies. Yeah. And so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and remind everybody that we do have a disclaimer of certain topics that are going to be discussed in this episode in the description in case anybody would like to see that ahead of time. But with that said, let me take you back to the summer of 2020. Residents of Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania, and the surrounding areas started finding weird messages in their packaged items that they were purchasing at the grocery store. Now, I got you right out the gate with an image, Alfredo. Now, Task Force, as always, images that we talk about here will be provided on our social media at RedWebPod. So here you go. Here's your message. I'll break it down for you but this is just for your initial reactions. I'll kind of read through key elements of this note.
Sounds good. It's just a little letter. It's like white paper, black text. It's got like a couple paragraphs. No breaks in the paragraphs, but
major run-on.
Yeah, it looks like major run-on stuff here. That being said, the font for said paragraph is, looks like a standard, I don't know, like 8-12 font.
It's tiny, yeah.
It's tiny, but in like double, if not more, in terms of text size, is just, it says lies on the left side, one on top, one on bottom.
Yep. It says lies in all caps, nice and big.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah, so people are grocery shopping. They open up their packages at home and they find this mysterious letter. And of course, some people went online, specifically to Reddit, in order to find whatever answers they could have, or in order to search for answers.
I'll be honest, I'm not eating that food.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a good point. That's been tampered with.
Man. I mean, honestly, though, like this seems like people that are like kind of go off the deep end with conspiracy stuff.
Sure.
And so
what are the implications of the food?
It kind of goes, or it's more likely to go hand in hand with someone that's not all there mentally, which is unfortunate. And so, like, I just wouldn't trust the food.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't.
Well, you don't know what you're dealing with. Just a
idea.
Foreign object being in a sealed box is enough for me to go, I got the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah.
Because this is supposed to go in my body now.
Yep.
I don't know. So you talked about this before, so let's dive in. Some of the packaged items holding this message included, among many things, infant Tylenol, Duncan Hines cake mix, frosted mini wheats, some various brands of chocolate bars, San Giorgio pasta, dog food, and other various sealed boxes. And at least one was found in a jacket and another was pinned to a tree. We'll talk about messages coming on later, but this is the initial wave.
So these messages are not necessarily all in the grocery store stuff.
It's primarily, but not exclusively.
But not exclusively.
Mm-hmm. So of those reporting this message in June of 2020, at least 2 shoppers said that the packaging of their items was in perfect condition and that they would have never assumed that it was tampered with. We'll expand on one of the 2020 reports in the back half of this episode during the theories section. Now, some consumers returned the product since they were uncomfortable knowing that the product might have been opened and that the message itself was quite unsettling. Speaking of the message, at first glance, shoppers assume that the message might just be instructions included with the product, especially if you're buying cake mix. You might just go, oh, this might be instructions, but of course, as you saw, the closer you look, the more it catches your attention, especially the giant word lies.
Yep.
So, I'm not going to read the entire message itself. There is a lot going on, and it uses a lot of contractions, like when you shorten a word, that are kind of abnormal, making it hard to read. But again, a lot of discussion of different conspiratorial terms. So let me read some of the highlights. These are the things I pulled out that make the most sense. Of course, this is maybe 25% of this message. So in order, jumping some spots. It says lies. Secret societies, as they call them, SS. We'll talk about that later. Terrible acronym for that, but it says secret societies ties to terrorism/shootings and other crises are not reported, but JFK warned of secret societies. Europe's Aryan elite and their secret society fronts. Leading secret society masquerading as other blank are the Illuminati. Then it has a list of names: Oprah/Obama/Putin/Austin/Gates/Dalai Lama/Trump ... Secret society symbols relate to Saturn, god of time / Lord of the Rings. Later it says secret societies say Saturn was near Earth, parentheses, golden age when gods ruled man. It goes on a little bit and it says world leaders know / crisis make people submissive. Secret society tip-off terms: New Age, Day, Era, Dawn, Hope, NWO, or New World Order. It's a very popular conspiracy. And then this message also goes on to say stuff about, quote, it uses set signs, example, OK gesture, or body positions. And then it expands on various other symbols that it thinks are related to secret societies. And then it ends with secret societies breed corruption locally to internationally. Drugs, media, university, public education, internet are tools of control. So again, I'm jumping all over the message, but in order.
Ooh.
I'm skipping over large swaths where it goes pretty deep onto specific groups and other topics that, again, are in the disclaimer. But suffice to say, this is hitting the gambit of conspiracy theories.
It's trying to capture it all.
That's a bingo board of conspiracy theories.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Look, do I believe that there are secret societies and groups? Yeah, I do. Like, why wouldn't there be? Do I believe they have power of control and stuff like that? Sure. To what extent? I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think that they have?
I don't necessarily think that like they shaped the world and they set this crisis off to control this part. I don't know. I know there's some type of that stuff in play government-wise, right? Like the government will fuel both sides of certain wars,
sure,
etc. You know, that stuff.
There's power dynamics all over the place, and whether that's the Illuminati you're referring to, or if it's like, no, Illuminati is this particular shape. It's hard to say, but there's elements in there that one could definitely see grounded in reality.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, exactly. I could see some of those elements that are grounded. But man, I mean, it's a little unhinged.
It does come off as a little unhinged because, again, it doesn't have one single focus message. No. It uses so many contractions that it makes it very hard to understand.
Yep.
And so when it runs this gambit, when it talks about so many different things all at once, it can make it very difficult to either one, take seriously, or two, it kind of gives a vibe. It's definitely unsettling. But many web searches reveal that this message itself has never surfaced online. That is to say that this message is unique to this note. That this is not from an online group, as one could theorize. That this is not a, as it were, copy pasta that someone generated online and then printed out and then shared elsewhere. This is all someone's writing, and then this is the first time it's ever surfaced.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, more notes like this were found all across Schuylkill County in Pennsylvania. All notes share that conspiratorial theme, mentioning various current and historical socio-political events and unique word contractions. So it's unknown if these messages are 100% one-to-one as they've been found. Some of them appear to be exactly the same with some slight differences, like a couple of different sentences, meaning that it's kind of unsettling to me because that means someone is retyping this out almost every time when they print it. They're not just photocopying the same message and blasting it out.
It may be way easier to do that. But also, how often are these messages found?
In the early stages, not super frequently, enough to be noted. And then it kind of died down. And then as 2022, 23, now into 24 come around, it's kind of grown exponentially.
Oh.
And so now new notes, kind of jumping ahead of myself here, but now new notes are being found almost every few days, if not daily.
Whoa.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that, but at the time, right, we're still back in 2020, it's enough to be noticed, but not overly common, if that makes sense.
This has got to be illegal, right? You can't like tamper with the food like that.
It definitely feels weird. Now, when you analyze this particular paper, as you were doing, it's definitely normal photocopier printer paper. It's that white paper, and it does appear that it was just maybe edited in a normal word processor like Microsoft Word, or Jillian thought maybe even in MS Paint, because it's just standard. It's just
very standard, text and font.
Yeah. Now, after a couple of semi-viral Reddit posts on the subreddit RBI, or Reddit Bureau of Investigation, and the weird subreddit r/weird, and other similar subreddits, the Schuylkill Notes were kind of largely forgotten. It went viral a few times and then petered out, though there were a few handfuls of reports in 2021 and 2022. That kind of is what brings us into modern times and their resurgence. So, like I said, after a couple of years of the initial wave of Schuylkill Notes in 2020, the notes have resurfaced in 2023 and have continued into this year, 2024. The amount and area of the notes seems to have expanded exponentially, leading to a dedicated subreddit being created on August 31st of 2023, though due to the offensive nature of the name of that initial subreddit, another one was made a couple weeks later, and that's the subreddit called r/Schuylkill Notes. That was made in September last year, 2023. So in this subredditors share notes that they find in and around Pennsylvania, sometimes other states, but it's almost daily, like I said. Reddit users have tried to scour the web for more evidence of these Schuylkill Notes and what they could possibly mean or where they might be from. But despite 2020 being the year of the internet first learning of these, in this search, this scouring of the internet to find more information, Redditor Hair Deodorant discovered the earliest known, love the name, a lot of unique names out there. They discovered the earliest known example of the Schuylkill Notes may have actually been from 2015. This comes from their comment under a mega thread listing all of the known reports of the notes. A mega thread is just like, hey, here's your one-stop shop for all this topic.
Of it,
yeah. So this one is just listing all the reports. And their comment, they shared an anonymous user's images of notes found on the floor of a mall changing room in Pennsylvania. So I have images for you of that.
Oh.
And as you look at... Now I'm going to...
Yeah, it could just be a test bed, right? Like,
could just be a test bed.
They're just like, okay, let me test the waters and see if I can get info out there. But to not come back for 5 years...
Yeah.
Interesting gap.
I mean, it's also the internet. Can you believe everything? That's something that we're going to have to kind of incorporate into this topic. But the first image that you're looking at features a note that is very similar in its format to the lies note we looked at before.
Oh, it is.
But it's accompanied by a second image that is completely different. And I'm going to keep it very brief. If you want to go deeper, you can. But it basically talks about a Russian hacker, has some Hillary Clinton topics on it. And this note's message and its format hasn't been seen again in this saga, so its relevance can be argued. Is it part of this? Was it just accompanying it at the time? It's really impossible to say.
Yeah, I mean, it could literally be just like, you know, when you go to like a bar or something like that, people write on the wall, right? And so it could just be someone that went, oh, someone, you know, had this on the ground, and then I'm going to put something else on the ground.
Yeah, do you know Red Bull? That's how they got big. They'd go to clubs, they go to downtown bars and stuff, and then like in the bathroom, they'd crush up a bunch of their cans and just litter them around. So then people would be like, oh, I'm a club goer. I'm in the bathroom at 2 a.m.
No way.
What is this Red Bull? I guess that's what people here have.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm. That was like their first guerrilla marketing kind of campaign, was to like just go around and crush up their own cans and spread them around.
Wow.
That's floors of bars.
That's cool. So smart. Okay, we take sippy cups.
You going out late? Grab that sippy cup. Stay hydrated and intelligent, because it's the cup of knowledge. Feeds the soul and the mind. It's a very long slogan that wraps around the cup a few times.
But if you're taking a number 2, you got the time.
You're reaching for something to read. You know, next to the shampoo bottle is a sippy cup. And you know what? You've read the bottle a few times. Hop to that cup. All right.
I've never read the shampoo bottle. The second image is just kind of just memey.
It is kind of memey.
Like 2015 memey.
Yes. The 2016 election sort of like, oh, you know, this candidate, that candidate kind of riffraff. But yeah. So anyway, for transparency, we wanted to include it because it was in this person's post. Again, it's hard to say if this is part of the Schuylkill Notes or if this is just kind of being posted alongside it. We don't know. But the first message certainly has a very similar format. Hey. Now here in 2024, even more notes have been found, and not just inside grocery store items, but in public parks and along trails as well. In fact, there's a lot more outdoor activity this time than there was back in the initial 2020 event. Yeah. Okay. So on January 14th, 2024, Reddit user Run and Punch Flamingo found multiple Schuylkill notes among leaves and attached to branches while on a hike in Bethel, Pennsylvania. This is the county next to Schuylkill. I also have images of those.
That was like over a week ago.
That was just over a week ago as of the recording of this podcast, yeah.
They said 2024. I'm like, it's January 23rd. What do you?
Yeah, that was 9 days ago.
We're like 23 days in. What do you mean 2024?
Yep. So whoever placed these notes used paper clips and push pins to stick them to the trees. So this is a very highfalutin, operation.
Yeah, we're gonna need the fingerprint department, the Red Web Task Force. Just go ahead and put that schmutz on it, and then start feathering it down.
You talking about like those dusty feathers that they kind of go pop, pop, pop.
Yeah.
And they just kind of like dust it down.
In like all the investigation shows.
Or like that scene in Ace Ventura when he's just covered the whole room and himself in that white powder. And he's like, I'm dusting for prints.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm gonna need the task force fingerprint department to get on that. And then we just got you guys a whole batch of Scotch tape so you can go ahead and pull those fingerprints right off.
That's what they do. That's exactly how it works too. Yeah, it looks like little baggies of
paper clips,
illicit substances, but instead they're little baggies with folded notes in them that then get push pinned to a tree.
It's very like inexpensive. Like nothing about this is like, oh, that costs money. It's like, oh, you could do this and it costs you $5 to throw 100 of these up.
That could be an afternoon chore for someone. Yeah.
And then I guess like the second image is a tree with a leaf pinned to the tree. And was a note behind it?
See, I don't know. That image just was like in the area. It was a leaf push pin to the tree, almost as like,
you know what it was? They were just doing it for fun.
Right. I got an extra push pin, but no note. So this one's just going on a leaf.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
Formatting looks exactly the same, except for I don't see big words.
Oh, right, where it says lies.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good point. It's a good point. Now, that's some advanced formatting. You know, this could be the work of a copycat.
I know, that's the thing. It's like now we're getting into the realm of like, man, you could just have people copycatting now.
Yeah.
Because that's just, everyone wants to get involved. It's the internet.
We'll talk about it. I mean, there's a lot of theories that attempt to address what's going on here. Now, there was one witness in particular that claims to have found a note not within the box, as we were talking about before. I have an answer potentially for some of those boxes having a note in it, but instead, they reported that they had it inside the sealed bag of cereal itself. So Joe Miller of Sugarloaf Township in a county, again, next to Schuylkill, told local news source 2822 News, quote, I opened up the box. I usually open it up and take the bag out, and I opened the bag like this, so I poured it out in the bowl, and out came this paper that was all folded up.
First off, why do you take the bag out of the box?
Now, that's some chaotic evil stuff right there.
Very chaotic.
You're taking the full bag
do that,
out
Christian?
of there.
Take the bag out of the box?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
You take that
Just
bag out,
checking.
it settles, it widens, it's not going back in without some jostling and no.
I thought you'd take the bag out of the box, like this is just where my mind is right now, and then put it like in a container or something like that. Task Force HQ, we make sure to glue the bags to the box. You can't do that. We're not going to have it.
Right.
That being said, like sealed in the bag, like you gotta either work along the chain of the production or know someone that does, because I mean that sets you on a path to invest. You know, you're talking about how like, was it the FBI?
Yeah,
and
they're
like
involved.
Someone like a senator or something like that.
Couple congressmen. Yeah.
And so that's where you go to search and you go to look, because not many people have access to, you know, the cereal manufacturing chain. So that's where I would start. Also, throw the cereal out. Not eating it.
Right. Someone left like a handwritten note that was fondled by someone's sweaty little fingers, and that's in my honeygrams.
Yeah, even if then it was fondled by somebody else. Look, the last thing I want to do is be on the news, and it's just like a picture of me dead with a spilled box of Count Chocula. You know what I mean? Cereal. I just can't go out that way, man.
Right. You don't like to see spilled Count Chocula. It's a waste.
You know, it's not the way I want to go. So,
right, the death part. Right, that's it. That was my bad.
But even then, you said there's some in like baby aspirin or something like that.
Yeah, some infant Tylenol. I love it. You're like my dad. They were like perfect synonyms, but just like a little bit different, like an alternate reality. Yeah. So there are some boxes that I would say are more difficult to get into without resealing them yourself.
Yeah. So I mean, at this point, I'm like, how are you getting into, because like, yeah, sure, like a cereal box is owned by a company that owns a bunch of stuff, candy bars, et cetera, but now you get a little bit more obscure where like, it's not like it's not possible, but it's less likely that like a cereal company is going to be like, hell yeah, we also dive into like medicine for children. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
so, and we'll talk more about this in one of the theories in particular and how this effort is kind of untenable. But with that said, one of the things I was doing with Jillian, I was like, man, what would be really cool is if we could try to look at each of these products and see where they're manufactured, where they're shipped, and who's shipping them, and see if there's anything that lines up, if there's anything shared between each of these products, because then you could kind of corroborate an individual. Like, is it someone at the manufacturing plant, someone at the boxing facility, someone at the shipping facility? Again, we'll talk about it in the theories.
Do they converge at a point anytime?
Right. But yeah, we'll come back around to that. But it's definitely interesting, though we only have one person saying it's within the sealed bag. Now, this is where I bring it even into more relevancy. Our researcher Jillian mentioned that as she was doing this outline, as she was doing the research, the day prior to writing this very sentence down, she said that a note was found in the pocket of a pair of jeans at the store. So these things are being found all over the place, and this happened specifically on January 18th, 2024. So a couple of short days ago.
I mean, that's easy, man. You drop it to a Macy's, there's just clothes everywhere. You just start putting notes on everything. Dang, dude.
So it's been a little bit since we've done an internet mystery, and what I love about doing internet mysteries is that you get the hive mind, it wakes up, you get internet sleuths getting hands-on, sharing information, multiple people like our task force from different job and skill sets all coming in with their theories and trying to analyze.
It's just like a group thing, man. You just got a bunch of people with different skill sets, different walks of life, different literal set of eyes looking at it. And so, yeah, you're just, and especially because now it's the internet and then these forums are very popular. And so you just got thousands of people just like taking a glance at it, taking a shot at it. Yeah.
Now, what's interesting here, and this definitely solidifies this being a 2024 mystery, is that some users on the internet turn to ChatGPT, which is a large language model, to essentially analyze these messages, to look for any clues. Now, nothing really conclusively came from that, but it does show that like they're using every tool within their realm to try to figure this out, to look for patterns, to look for writing styles, to see if anything's different between these.
Yeah.
Because if nothing else, ChatGPT is good at recognizing language and predicting language. And so it could be a useful tool for this.
Yeah, it could also be like the start of what the future of like, I don't know, just your everyday person can use to investigate like, you know, things like now, right? Everyone's use the internet to like, you're just whoever you are, whether like you are an investigator or you're in the government or a police officer, whatever, or just a person that loves mysteries. The internet's at your disposal, right? It's a tool. And so this could lead to a more advanced like tool in the future to help like generate
absolutely
like searches and stuff.
I mean, 100%. Once things get more advanced and get a little bit more like surefire, as it were, I could see this like 10 years down the line being something where you have two messages that you hold up. You're no longer looking at handwriting because we're all digital.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, 50 years ago, you'd be like, this handwriting looks like this handwriting. It was you. Now it might be like the way that this phrase is written and the way that that sentence over there and the way that that book over there is written, we can, with an 85% chance confidence here, say that it's likely the same person.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
You know, something we talked about in, I think it was the William Shakespeare episode when we were talking about the ghostwriter theory, and they would look at, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but they'd look at their writing samples versus Shakespeare writing samples, and do exactly that, like compare the style, the way that they, would pattern certain words, certain filler words or bridge words or things like that. So it's something that's already been used in investigations like these.
Oh, right. Francis Bacon's writing against the large swath of William, as you say, Fredo, Shakespeare's writing.
Oh, yeah, Shakespeare.
Yeah, there you go. He's like, I didn't know who that was.
I didn't know what you're talking about. Too. Really
that was my favorite thing about that particular episode. You'd always go, Shakespeare.
Oh, you talking Shakespeare? Yeah, because just like, how you have your unique fingerprint, like writing is a little bit of a DNA of who you are.
That's why each day of the week I write differently. Yeah, and I don't text on Tuesdays. So
about to get caught.
And we took that into account. Yeah, it's interesting. But coming back to it, with the growth of the notes, local news sources, police, and now even FBI have gotten involved in the mysterious Schuylkill Notes. In fact, as I teased earlier, we have statements from 2 congressmen to talk about. All in all, the notes have spread throughout central Pennsylvania, though many have begun finding these notes outside the state as well. In fact, Reddit user Marmalade186 developed a map showing at least 10 notes outside the Pennsylvania area. Within Pennsylvania, the notes cover an area of 231 miles from east to west, about Easton to Johnstown, and 177 miles north to south, about Scranton to Hanover, or 371 kilometers by 285 kilometers, or, for folks like me, a bit over half of Pennsylvania. Now, most appear to be found in the area between Allentown and Harrisburg, so there's a hot spot, a wider area, and then a petering out in the states around Pennsylvania.
But it's the states around Pennsylvania.
Yes.
We're not talking like
one in Florida. No.
Yeah.
It's mostly in the area.
Okay, so that's still doable by an individual.
Mm-hmm.
Also, depending where you're on the shipping line, it can go.
Well, remember, some of these are outside now.
Mm-hmm.
So they're being found in parks up near Scranton. They're found in grocery stores in Allentown. And, they're kind of all over the place. And now we're getting to a point where volume is becoming the question. And this is now feeding some of the theories like, is it possible for one person to hit up all these areas?
Yeah.
With the frequency.
That's true. If you kept it in like sealed grocery store products, then you could, depending where you are in that chain, like it could be dispersed a ton of places. That now makes me think though, like since they were specifically in a smaller, it was like in this town, right? This county. And it started off with this town, this county.
Mm-hmm.
The grocery store specifically was where it was hitting. That'd have to be somewhere pretty far down the chain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Now, local news source 2822 News has a section dedicated to the notes with a map of those found in their area. So this is now prolific enough that the news is keeping a consistent eye on this. And from a 2822 News article from December 27th, Congressman Dan Muser stated, quote, "We're definitely going to stay on top of this. If it's concerning to our constituents, which it clearly is, it's concerning to us. So we are going to stay in touch with our contacts at the FBI and the FDA. Everything that we can find out, that we can share, we will." And then there was another congressman, Matt Cartwright, who told the same news outlet that he has been in contact with federal officials on this matter as well. At this moment, we don't know much about the official investigation on the Schuylkill Notes, but there are many theories regarding them.
I mean, are all these notes still just the same though? In terms of like, there's different conspiracies, but they're all just a smattering of stuff that's pretty wild and out there. Does the messaging change or the flow or patterns change? Is it literally just like every message is like, whoa, this is just a lot of stuff being thrown at you and all like wild conspiracies?
It seems to be pivoting around the same initial message that I read before.
Oh, okay.
It with subtle variations. It's primarily, like a shotgun blast of conspiratorial kind of thinking. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Rocket Money. Do you ever feel like your subscriptions are taking over your life? I mean, I know we're all subscribed to something these days, but guess what? There's a superhero in town task force, and it's called Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills. You can see all of your subscriptions in one convenient place, and if you see something that you don't want, you can just cancel it right there in-app with a tap. You never have to get on the phone with customer service. I really enjoy that you can track everything, all of your cards in one place, but even more so, I love that function. I love that in the app, you can just go, I don't want that. I don't know why I'm using it. I haven't been using it at all, but I'm paying for it. Hit it in the app. Rocket Money will cancel it for you. That's awesome. Super convenient. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year, with over $500 million in canceled unwanted subscriptions. That's pretty gnarly. So stop wasting your money on things that you don't even use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/redweb. Again, that's rocketmoney.com/redweb. Task Force, for those of you in the back writing this down with a pen and paper, rocketmoney.com/redweb. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Factor. Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals make eating better every day. It's super easy. Wherever tomorrow takes you, be ready with pre-prepared, chef-crafted, and dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. What are you waiting for? Okay, we all hit the grocery store. Get that order right to your door and get started today and have a feel-good week of meals ready to go. Factor is also flexible for your schedule. They want to make it personal for you. Get as much or as little as you need by choosing 6 to 18 meals per week. Plus, you can pause or reschedule your deliveries anytime. Factor meals are 100% ready to heat and eat, so there's no prepping, cooking, or cleanup. I really enjoy Factor meals because with my dietary needs, I need a lot of protein. I'm trying to bulk up, trying to look handsome. The summer's coming. Got to get that beach bod going. And Factor has a meal plan no matter what you're after. So me and my fiance have our own meal plans, and we both can get that, and they're delicious every single time. And for the run and gun lifestyle that we got going on. I hate the grocery store task force. You know that about me. But also, I love that sometimes you don't have the time to want to sit down and peruse a recipe, get in there. You can just pop this in the microwave, and it's every single time. It's delicious, and it's healthy. Head to factormeals.com/redweb50, okay, redweb50, and then use code redweb50 to get 50% off. That's a meaty chunk. That's code redweb50 at factormeals.com/redweb50. Again, that's a 50 at the end, and you're going to get 50% off. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Henson Shaving. Are you all too familiar with the pains of using a cheap razor or the annoyance of subscription razors? Well, that's where Henson Shaving comes in. Henson Shaving is a family-owned aerospace parts manufacturer that has made parts for the ISS, that's the International Space Station for the geeks like me at home, and as well as the Mars rover. And now they're bringing all that precision engineering straight to your face with their shaving experience. By using aerospace-grade CNC machines, Henson makes metal razors that extend just 0.0013 inches, which is less than the thickness of a human hair. That is wildly sharp. That means a secure and stable blade with a vibration-free shave, and it gets better. By the way, Task Force, can you tell I'm geeking out over all the aerospace-grade engineering pieces here? Also, as a face shaver, the razor has a built-in channel to evacuate the hair and cream, which makes clogging virtually impossible. I deeply appreciate how close the shave is, how smooth it glides across the skin, and I am prone to clogged pores and ingrown hairs. I have not had that since starting to use Henson Shaving, so I really appreciate, again, bringing the engineering precision of space-grade technology right to my face. It's time to say no to subscription and yes to razors that will last you a lifetime. Visit hensonshaving.com/redweb to pick the razor for you and use code REDWEB and you'll get 2 years worth of blades for free with your razor. Just make sure to add them to your cart when you check out. That's 100 free blades when you head to HENSONSHAVING, hensonshaving.com/redweb and use code REDWEB. Do you ever keep yourself up at night reading real-life scary stories that make your skin crawl? Tales of true crime or histories of the macabre? If you've ever wondered, what exactly is necro-cannibalism? Played with a Ouija board, or simply Googled the last meal requests of death row prisoners, then 30 Morbid Minutes is the new podcast for you. 30 Morbid Minutes is a journey through the creepy, gruesome, and unexplained, hosted by friends, comedians, and known weirdos Elise Willems and Jessica Vasami. I also want to say, just personally, as Trevor, they are the sister podcast of Red Web, a fantastic show. I can't recommend them enough. Co-workers of ours, but also incredible friends with a great show. 30 Morbid Minutes takes you inside cruise ship morgues and behind the scenes at body farms, back in time to Victorian England's obsession with death, and down a rabbit hole of alien conspiracy theories and celebrity death hoaxes. If you like what we do here, you're going to love this show. Subscribe today to 30 Morbid Minutes now, wherever you listen to podcasts, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever your choice might be. New episodes every single Tuesday. So, with that, let's dive into the theories. Again, developing some of the thoughts that we had earlier in the show. So, among the first theories revolving around the Schuylkill Notes is that someone working in the grocery store was slipping these messages inside the boxes of these products. Maybe taking them home, opening boxes, putting them in, resealing, restoring, or in the case of, and I'm holding a cereal box task force in front of me, in the case of, imagine a cereal box, or if you prefer, like me, Pop-Tarts. The flaps are glued down in like 3 spots, but if you kind of pinch the box a little bit, there's a gap that,
right at the gap right now.
The flaps, yeah, you're looking at my gap. The flaps kind of arch up, and you can easily slide a little piece of paper in there, right? So you don't necessarily have to take them home or open them.
For sure. I feel like it'd stay in the top flap part.
For sure. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit
because I mean, look, we don't. The one person says they found it in the bag,
right?
And the bag was sealed.
It's a good point. Now, another thing that has been added within the confines of this theory, and I want to handle this with all the respect necessary, specifically with reference to the idea of a store employee putting these into products. It has been theorized that this employee may be experiencing a mental health crisis. Now, I don't want to vilify any level of mental health or mental illness, but some have suggested that it's possible the writer was struggling with schizophrenia. Symptoms of schizophrenia include paranoia, hypergraphia, which is an intense compulsion to write, and word salad, which includes like confusing, sometimes grammatically incorrect, or sometimes seemingly random language, which does seemingly apply to the message we're looking at.
Yeah, so it does line up.
Yeah. Now, whether or not this person does have mental illness kind of is beside the point, because I do think that it is entirely viable that a person working at the store could be involved with the messages getting into the product.
Oh, I mean, that's the first place you check.
100%. That's kind of, you were dancing all around that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of like park it for a little bit until we got to this point.
No, it's parked.
Oh, yeah.
Set the emergency brakes on that one.
And turn the wheel towards the curb, right?
That's very smart on the hill. A lot of people don't do that. Or I used to live in San Francisco, and your car could just roll and then just smash it into.
That's wild.
Yeah, it'll smash into a bunch of cars. If you turn it, then at least it'll like get caught on the curb. Yeah, no, it's important. You're parked on the hill. Flip side, smoke and mirrors. It could be someone that's just high IQ riding this way. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't, why not?
It's possible for sure.
Just so, they can go, okay, I know different psych profiles, etc. Like, I'm just going to pick this one, and they're going to be the persona.
Oh my gosh. So someone like mimicking kind of like a more conspiratorial tone.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, so basically trying to say something in broad daylight, but with a really, like, if I write it in clear language, people go, okay, yeah, whatever. But if I write it cryptically, people might go, huh? And then it spreads. Ooh, that's interesting.
Because we we're this is in the U.S. and in the States. Americans, we love the flashy stuff. We love, you know what I mean?
We love true crime.
We're desensitized to a lot of things. So the weirder you get with it, the more enticing it is going to be for us. It just,
100%. Now, I want to circle back to the angle that you were talking about, which is not only could it be somebody working at the store, but it could also be somebody at the food packaging industry or a warehouse employee or a delivery driver. In fact, Reddit user Scoot Mayhall claims to have worked in a warehouse, and then they theorized that the person could be a, quote, temp worker, a cleaner, and or delivery driver, since these roles, per them, have less direct supervision. That said, many other people showed up and said, nah, it's not necessarily true. Some of these roles, jobs in warehouses, for example, have a lot of supervision. But I digress. That's part of the theory here.
But that's the beauty of it, right? The different eyes and ears that we're talking about. Because then you get the people that are like, I work currently in this like chain for different companies. So here are my experiences.
Yeah, it's interesting. And again, it's trusting people at face value. It is the internet.
It's a lot of that.
But on top of that, it's an interesting thought. And if we had something like batch numbers for these products, it might then be able to help Jillian and I kind of do the effort that we wanted to do, which is figure out the manufacturer, the warehouse, and perhaps the delivery service that the notes originate from. Because if for some reason these products might not feel related, but if they have a very related logistics chain, then you could go, there's somebody at that spot. That's the bottleneck. That's how it's getting touched on. But
it could literally pass through a warehouse that's like, okay, this is everything comes, right, is shipped from different states. It enters this facility or a handful of facilities, and like that's where it gets dispersed, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is kind of like customs, right, in a sense.
Yeah. In fact, that's what investigators did after the Chicago Tylenol murders in order to track down who was poisoning the Tylenol. However, it doesn't seem like anyone has found this information for this case, and so, or that it's just not publicly available. So that hasn't been an angle that we've been able to kind of explore. But when I did a very cursory glance, and I started with the infant Tylenol, the two places per Britannica that I found, it says that Johnson & Johnson's infant Tylenol was manufactured in Puerto Rico and Round Rock, Texas, which is right up north of Austin, like a 30-minute drive.
I can drive over to J&J.
You get some Tylenol, get some child Tylenol.
You know what I mean? Straight from the source.
Yeah, straight from the source. They got a hose out back that just pumps out little pills. And you go, hot piping fresh. Some steaming Tylenol. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. But coming back to the theory, though, others believe that since many of the notes are found in boxes, not just like the bags or outside, but in the boxes specifically, someone may have just been placing the notes inside and then resealing the glue, returning them to stores. So this is where I want to bring up a very specific case. According to a local blog, Coal Speaker, on October 2020, in Township, Pennsylvania, there was a woman named Angel. She purchased a box of gluten-free chocolate chip cookies at an Aldi's. Now, the box was sealed shut, but tucked under the kind of lip inside the box was a little cardboard piece with a folded piece of paper. Now, this is where I facetiously talk about this very advanced technique with which this person could have slipped it in the box. Now, I have a photo for you, but now just imagine someone just used a torn piece of cardboard to shove it in, you know?
Yeah, because it's firmer.
Yeah. So you have basically on any given box, at least food product boxes, you have the two big flaps that seal together. Then you got those two side baby flaps that just kind of help like close things off. But they're short enough that if you folded the piece of paper, used a little piece of cardboard to push it past that small flap, it could then fall in the box. And maybe in this case, that little shoved cardboard piece also got lost in the box.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little cardboard piece, it looks like. It's on a sheet of paper for a lined paper for size, and then there's a little note. There it is. Yeah.
That to me makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
At least as the origin of this mystery. As always, I like to connect the dots between multiple theories, and we'll get there.
It's interesting because it kind of just seems like this is the first time the cardboard thing has come up, you know? And so at this point, like, is it a copycat, or was it just never brought up in other? I mean, I feel like it would have been brought up though. Like,
yeah, maybe it's just that, like, again, they fold the note and then they go to a box, shove it in with a little cardboard piece, and then shove the next one in using that piece. And maybe this one they got over shovey and they couldn't get their own little
cardboard piece.
Yeah, so that just remained under the flaps, but unable to be pulled out.
True.
So maybe this is like the only time it's been reported. Otherwise, most people just go, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now moving on to the next theory. This one and the next one are a little bit shorter, but due to the cryptic nature of the Schuylkill Notes, some believe that these could be a way to spread the message of some kind of cult. The main thing that this particular theory leans on is the fact that these notes have now been so prolific that it seems impossible for one person to be writing them all and be able to get them all over Pennsylvania, because they're being found almost daily now. And so it must then, in some people's minds, be a group. And given the cryptic nature of it, given some of the buzzwords in the message, that, okay, well, then it must be a cult, because this is saying some sort of like, again, there's like just lots of cult style buzzwords.
True. I mean, I can completely see that. And the scope is getting much larger. You know what I mean? Like, it's becoming a less a person, more organization.
Yeah.
Feels like.
Now, I think what's interesting with the idea of a cult, though, and taking the message at face value, is that rather than support the organizations that they're talking about in the message, which they themselves could be the cult, right? These secret societies, these organizations, the Illuminati they mentioned, et cetera, it seems that this person is writing as a warning to the reader about these secret societies. So with that in mind, it almost feels like a counter-cult type of effort rather than a cult or a promotion.
Yeah, it's like, get the message out there, like, this is what exists.
Yeah.
And like, be aware.
Yeah.
Wake up.
Unless this is the anti-cult cult, where they're like, we're a cult of people that just hate cults.
I mean, it could be.
And none of us have mirrors in the houses, right? Because because we don't want to see how hypocritical that is. But I think the other thing, I mean, I think it's a natural conclusion for anybody reading these messages. I mean, for the first thing to pop in their head is cult, right? It's just, I think it's one of those natural conclusions one would make because it's cryptic and it feels like it might be a group. But the other thing, the other big wrinkle in this particular theory is that there's no clear way to engage with this person or this group. There's no callback number, there's no address, there's no way to kind of fall down the rabbit hole into a group. There's no invitation. That said, I mean, you could say it's cryptic. You could say it's coded.
I would not be surprised if a cipher dropped one day and then all of a sudden you just go back to all these messages and there was messages within the message.
Oh, that would break my little brain cell.
Yeah.
That would be wild. But speaking of, that kind of leads us nicely into the next theory. Again, a little smaller, but that this message is odd and cryptic because it is simply that, a coded message. What is it saying? We don't really know. Maybe it hasn't been deciphered yet. But some people think that this coded message beyond the face value could be some sort of warning. It mentions throughout the message something about the planet Jupiter. And the reason I mention that is because there's another topic that we've talked about here on this show called the Toynbee Tiles. And the reason I mentioned that is because the Toynbee Tiles was another cryptic message mystery based in Philadelphia and kind of across Pennsylvania, though we've seen them, I think, in South America as well. And these tiles have said a few things, but on the whole, they center around one core message, which is, quote, Toynbee idea in movie 2001 resurrects dead on planet Jupiter, end quote. So, all that is to say, of course, it's a strange message because, as the theory says, it's just a coded message. There's something deeper than the face value of the message.
But man, we're getting into like conspiracies with gods and like the way the universe is shaped and run and stuff.
Right. Like when they start talking about like, well, when, quote, Saturn or, quote, Lord of the Rings was closer, I think he says golden god, I don't remember exactly, like was closer to the planet and watching over us, things were better. But then all these various secret societies with different MOs and different faces, like when they started getting into play, like everything went wild and they're basically taking you off, as this message would maybe have you believe, the righteous path, which in that mind, maybe the cryptic message or the coded message is that of a religious background.
True.
I don't know.
But it just goes down such a deep, narrow, like rabbit hole. You know what I mean? Like there's tons of rabbit holes and they go deep, but this just seems so very narrow. Right. I feel like even other people that go down rabbit holes would go, I don't even know about all that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
my rabbit hole doesn't go that. I don't have a basement to my basement.
Right.
You know? What's interesting, and I think to me, this is like a personal take, but under the theory that this is a coded message, the wrinkle for me is that if you're trying to say something, if you're trying to get your word out and you want people to know it, maybe this person is using conjunctions and shortening words so they can fit it on a small piece of paper. But if you're trying to like have a message within your message and make it super cryptic and coded, people aren't going to get it and your message isn't going to get out. That being said, maybe plain language would just not stand out to anybody and so you just throw it away, whereas something cryptic kind of catches your eye and you want to share it. And so the virality of it kind of helps you spread your message. But yeah, it's, I don't know. There could be elements of this coded message that ring true, but I don't think that that's the only answer to this one. So moving on now, as many people might be thinking out there in the task force, it's also possible that the Schuylkill Notes are simply a hoax. Similar to the cult theory, there are so many notes that it's possible that only a small fraction of them could be considered, quote, real or authentic. You know, maybe the first round of notes were air quotes real. And maybe even in the start of 2023, some of these notes were from the original person, whoever started this. But when the popularity grew and people started getting those internet points and things started to go viral, people started to create their own notes, very similar notes, and putting them in the world so somebody could find them, or pretending they found them so they could make their own discovery post. I mean, this is 100% Reddit MO, right? This happens.
Look, everyone out there, a lot of people out there, they like posting their tweet, they like putting out their pic on Instagram.
I gotta get my dopamine.
And then it's like, oh, you know, you check in. How many little hearts I get on that post? You know what I mean? How many comments I get on that post? Same thing applies to like conspiracy threads, you know? Someone would want to be involved, and then there's like, all right, I'll mock up my own. It's very easy. It's just it is just standard font on white paper, you know? And then just like, this is what I got. And it's all still jumbled anyways. Like you can, you know what I mean? It's not like you're writing some type of like equation.
Yeah.
Like you could just write whatever the hell. And then all of a sudden, like, boom, there goes the dopamine hit, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
You got everyone like trying to decipher my message. I got, you know, it's getting all these upvotes on Reddit, whatnot, tons of comments, and then it's just off the trail at that point.
Well, you feel part of something bigger. And I think there's something natural about that, wanting to be seen. There's a sociological element to that, but I think there's also something deeper ingrained in humans. You know, you just want to be part of something. And that's where you kind of get your 15 minutes of fame thinking coming from, you know, everyone wants a little attention. So if you're looking at a story like this and you're like, oh, my name's involved in that. I'm a cornerstone of the development of this mystery. That's really cool. You know, for better or worse, you created a false ripple that make investigating the thing a little harder, but you're part of something. That's not to say, by the way, that the first handful of messages were 100% authentic either. It's possible that it started as a hoax or a joke. Or it's possible it started as somebody seriously believing what they were putting into these messages and putting into these boxes and sending out to people, and then it took on a life of its own. Either way, there is no way to confirm the notes' authenticity or if they all come from the same writer. It's possible people online are printing out their own images from the notes shared on Reddit and claiming they found them, etc., etc. In fact, there was a YouTuber, Scare Theater, who found 9 notes were identical copies, and they were all uploaded to Reddit.
Oh, man. See? Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of it.
That were murder mysteries and people that did not commit the crime coming forward to claim that they were the murderer.
That's a great point.
Like, this is...
Why would you want to be the person that did the crime?
Yeah. There's people that want to be a part of it that badly.
Yeah.
So, this is easy.
Yeah. Now, lastly, another smaller theory. Some have suggested that the Schuylkill Notes are an ARG. That said, and it does make sense. It's online, and I think once things go online, it's a natural assumption that this must be some sort of alternate reality game. But that said, there's not much here to indicate that this is a story or an ARG. The notes don't really have any hidden codes that have been discovered, at least, and they're just kind of written in a strange, uncommon way of speaking. This would also be a very long ARG to go on, 3 to 4 years now with essentially zero progress, at least as far as we can find. ARGs tend to have a purpose, tend to have a goal or a destination, and their story is either pushed along or revealed at some point. And this one has kind of been static. It's weird messages are showing up in these boxes. Now they're showing up in nature. They kind of died off. But then they got popular online and then they showed up again. And so, I don't know. My conclusion personally is that it does feel like the internet took this on and started spreading it, but otherwise that a store employee, whatever their ideology was trying to spread their message, kind of share something that they were thinking about with other people. And it was just weird enough that the internet went, ooh, that's strange.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it now.
Yeah.
And it just kind of took on a life of its own.
It's very interesting, though, that it all kind of stayed within the state, though.
That's true.
Like usually,
a lot of weird things happening in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. It just feels like, I don't know, that would start popping up all like other places.
Yeah. Like copycats or something like that. I mean,
people are like, I found one in California. I'm a part of it now.
Right.
People are that dumb.
It could happen. It might happen after this goes live. We don't know because it's still ongoing.
9 days ago or something like that, there was another message. So
yeah. Well, at the top of the episode, I said, we kind of started looking into this a few years ago, and then we stopped because there wasn't a lot going on. And now, as you know, kind of our bread and butter is internet mysteries, and the fact that this has taken the internet by storm, we thought we couldn't look away from it. We wanted to come in and take a look at it and perhaps address the answer, maybe dissect what's going on. I think we do have a bit of a conclusion. Otherwise, if this did seem to be a little bit more open-ended, whether it be an ARG or some cryptic group trying to spread some messaging, we would have sat back a little bit longer. But I mean, who's to say? There could be further developments that come from this. But right now, the way it looks,
it plateaued.
Yeah, the way it looks is that it started out as something authentically interesting, but it kind of petered out before it even got started. And now it feels more of a widespread copycat. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see something pop up in California, pop up somewhere else. But either way, though, interesting. And I always find it super fascinating to see how mysteries and the internet collide, how they interact with one another.
Yeah, it's cool because how rare is it to do an episode that's something that's, you know what I mean? Like so close to, it's recent. It's now. It's happening. And then on top of that, it's like, where along this chain? You know what I mean? It feels really in sealed products. Like, man, that's a whole thing. That's very unique.
Yeah.
I'm glad it didn't turn super malicious or anything like that.
No one got hurt. Nothing like that.
We had like we were saying earlier, the Tylenol murders.
Yeah.
But this one seemed to have plateaued, and this is, obviously if more stuff develops, we'll be back. But I'm with you on this is pretty much where it's going to be at.
Yeah. And I guess that's the only open thread to me. And again, it's taking the person at face value, the one person that found something sealed within the cereal. Now, we've had people in various cases kind of like adjust their story, whether on purpose or by accident. They retroactively shift the details of their story. It could be this person was mistaken, that they opened the bag, poured it, and then it fell out of the box and they thought it was in the bag.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that is a good thread to kind of think about is, as this story potentially develops, do more things show up within the sealed confines? Because then we have something a little deeper. But otherwise, righto, I'll see you right back here next Monday for another mystery.
Oh, another meeting? Another gathering? We're not a cult.